Welcome back to Beneath the Long Man's Feet. Once again, I'm in my wonderful woods again. Well, not my woods. They don't belong to me, but I consider them my local woods. Cinders is with me again, as always. And I'm going to do a short piece for you. Now, I was asked if I will do some of the old tales as well as my own poems and stories. And I'm happy to do that, but where do you start? There are so many ancient tales, aren't there? And sometimes, they're not always easy to understand. You have to really delve down into some of these tales before the magic starts bubbling to the surface, and then they just keep giving. And the Mabinogion, or the Mabinogi, however you pronounce it, is just the same. And that pronunciation, perhaps that's half the problem, isn't it? So a few years ago, I wondered whether a more modern telling of these old tales would make more sense. So I wrote a piece called the Modern Mabinogamathinhgamy. And this is part 1 and part 2 together for you. And I'm going to do that for you today. Hope you like it. Colin fell in love with Olive, as was his fate. So he travelled to meet her on that Cardiff council estate. Now, Olive's dad was an ex-miner, and he was mean and gruff. And he said to Colin, if you want my Olive, you've got to do me some stuff. And so the tasks were set, and they included building a shed with heat and power. And they included building a bath and walk-in shower. They included setting the DVD to record EastEnders each week without fail, and stopping the post office from sending all that junk mail. And he had to teach his granny how to send SMS texts from her phone. And he also had to stop Windows updates from crashing the PCs at home. But alas, the task with the big pig he could not do, due to government restrictions and the outbreak of swine flu. Another tale that I have to tell is perhaps one that you know so well. It tells of Arthur's search for the cauldron, that's a cooking pot to me and you, and he heard it was in Ireland, so overseas in a plane he flew. But once there, his men, they did take to the drink, and into a drunken stupor did they soon sink. And when it was time to leave, none but 7 could Arthur revive, and the cauldron was lost in the chaos at Heathrow Terminal 5. And the next tale comes from the 5th book of Mills and Boon, tales of a woman's love lost too soon. Arianrod, an unwanted baby she had that made her scream, and the child was whisked away by the social services team. No name, no weapon, or no wife shall I you give. That's my vow to you as long as I shall live. Well, the boy did grow up, and he threw a stone and a bird it did hit. Arianrod saw this and said, "Oi, you cruel git." Now I think you will agree it is a crying shame that you cruel git had become the boy's name. They visited her in a Cardiff council estate block, and at the door they did pretend there was a loud, urgent knock. Arianrod cried out in panic and in fear, "It's the police, quick, hide all this dodgy gear." And she threw him her drugs and her stash and her razor blade, and from this trick so a weapon was made. Now finding a wife proved much harder, for you see, oak, broom and meadowsweet doesn't grow in downtown Swansea. But from some bindweed and some dandelion and an old Burberry check, they fashioned her a fine old wife by heck. And they were happy together for a while, it's true, until a stranger came into town and turned her head anew. And the new lovers did wonder how they could be together as one, and finally found out how the dastardly deed could be done. And so it came to be that our hero did expire while standing in the bathtub, holding an electric fire. Well now, gather round, all you townies, and you country hicks, as I tell you that Rhiannon is not just a song by Stevie Nicks. Phil sat on his hill outside of Carmarthen town, surveying his manor for any wonders that may be going down. And then he caught a vision in green leathers, the corner of his eye, and a fit burn on a Harley went zooming on by. Phil chased her for 3 days as she zoomed on past, but that Harley, it was just too fast. It was big and it was powerful, it was rather nifty, and all Phil had was a little Yamaha Fizzy 50. And so in the end he cried out, "Oi, you, biker chick! Please stop, you're making me lovesick." And Rhiannon, she stopped and gave Phil a great big smile and said, "You stupid fool, you only had to ask me all this while." And so plans were made for the two to be wed, until Phil got Rhiannon engaged to another bloke instead. But no matter, after some trickery and a kicking in a great big sack, and the wedding plans were again on track. And my final tale tells of Bran the Blessed, and I will strive to prove to you he's not the bloke who said, "Flash Gordon's alive." This Bran had a daughter whose name meant Raven Fair, and a lord from Ireland would marry her, so he travelled from over there. Now Bran's brother thought he should say who called Branwen wife, so he slashed the lord's car tyres with his Stanley knife. Now to make amends, Bran gave the lord a gift of a brand new iPhone, and it had an app on it that could raise those who were lying prone. Well, the lord went back with his new bride and his fine new gift, but his aides said, "Lord, you've been dissed, don't heal this rift." So when they got back, they treated Branwen so badly it caused her much distress, until finally she found an old Nokia phone and sent Bran an SMS text. Well, Bran raised the army to rescue his daughter from this fate. And as you can imagine, with so much testosterone flying around, the outcome was never going to be great. There were tricks and a cauldron, fights and a great big rock. And to be mortally wounded was Bran's worst luck. His men that survived cut off his head and preserved it in liquid ice. And then they carried it back to Albion all the way, asking for his advice. And now what I have told you is basically true. And if you don't believe it, well, read the books all the way through. But these modern mistellings are now all but told, and I hope you agree they're not better than the old. So I would like to thank the bards, both dead and alive, for ensuring it is these old tales that still live and still thrive. The Modern Mabinogamathinhgamy, parts 1 and 2. I do hope you enjoyed it. Drop me a line on Beneath the Long Man's Feet. Let me know what you thought. Always good to hear from you. And now, my friends, as always, until we can meet again, I bid you hail and farewell.